Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It is 5:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast, and this is a special video. And this isn't a ploy, this isn't a gag, this isn't some kind of gimmick. I want to make this video, and I'm truly hoping that somehow, sometime, Donald J. Trump sees this video. It's not a gimmick. I thought about how most of my family, my parents in particular, voted for Donald Trump, and they think a lot like him. They're in their mid-70s, and I want to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt this one last time. Okay, talking straight to you. I'm not going to call you Mr. President. I'm just going to call you Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, I've seen on the news that you're not happy about the Black Lives Matter slogan being painted in front of your Trump Towers there in New York. And I know you've called the Black Lives Matter movement something by the radical left, or you've tried to dismiss it. And I'm going to talk about Colin Kaepernick too. This is what I want to say to you. And honestly, I'm getting tired of saying this, of trying to explain this to, I'll be honest, to white people who just don't want to understand it, who are purposely trying to dismiss what's going on. All right. The reason for the Black Lives Matter movement slogan is to bring attention to a crisis that a large portion of America is being murdered, being killed by the very people that are trying to protect them. This is nothing to, we can't dispute this. It's in all the, if you look at any of the data, you'll see that it ranges around 2.8 times more likely for a black man to be killed, an unarmed black man to be killed, than a white man. And I know you could argue with these statistics or whatever, but the bottom line is, if you watch the George Floyd video, and not just that one, but that one in particular, you're going to have to admit there's a problem here in America. The reason for the Black Lives Matter slogan is to bring attention to a crisis. It's not to just diminish from the lives of white people mattering less, or Hispanic people, or Asian people. That's not its purpose. Its purpose is to bring attention to a particular crisis so that we discuss it and find solutions to it. Okay, and I'm going to use an analogy here. We say, don't drive drunk, especially around this time of year, around the 4th of July. We use that slogan, don't drive drunk, don't drink and drive. We use this slogan instead of, well, let's all drive safe, because we want to bring attention to this particular problem on the highways. We want to focus our attention on this particular crisis. That's why we say that. And it's the same thing with the Black Lives Matter movement. It's to bring attention. It's to make it a point of discussion and find solutions and talk about it, because there is a crisis here. It's not to diminish or take away from anybody else's. It's not to say anybody else's lives don't matter as much. And to be honest, I'm getting tired of explaining this over and over. And I think a lot of times, I don't want to be insulting, but I think it's just willful ignorance. I think some people intentionally try to change the subject and just don't want to acknowledge what the problem is. Okay, and this leads me to Colin Kaepernick. And I feel the same way about this. Mr. Trump, you and a lot of your base have made Colin Kaepernick's kneeling about the anthem or the flag or the soldiers, and that's not what it's about. The very fact that he's coming out and taking a knee during the national anthem is showing respect, is acknowledging the flag, our democracy, all the people that have died and fought for it. The very fact that he is facing the flag during the anthem and taking a knee and acknowledging it is paying respect. But the reason for taking a knee is to bring attention to the same crisis. It's not meant to show disrespect. And deep down, I think 99% of people like you, Mr. Trump, and your supporters know this. And just like with the Black Lives Matter argument that all lives matter, it's the same thing. It appears to be people trying to change the subject and kind of flip it around and say, well, the people that say the Black Lives Matter are racist because all lives matter. And that Colin Kaepernick is a son of a, because he's disrespecting the flag. And what you're doing, either intentionally or unintentionally, is ignoring the obvious point of these things. And I do think it's intentional. These things are going to have to be acknowledged, whether you like it or not, sooner or later. And the longer you wait, the more anger and frustration there's going to be. All people deserve equal protection under the law. Nobody deserves to be frightened by police. I wasn't going to talk about this, but there's a video that's here in Connecticut that a father, a black father, happened to catch on video with his security cam pointing out down the driveway. And he happened just to catch this on video. It showed his young son, probably about 6 years old, playing basketball in the driveway. And their car was parked in the driveway. And you see the boy suddenly stop playing with the ball and look down the road. And then he quickly moves behind the family car and stands right facing the bumper, standing perfectly still. And then you see a police car drive by. The boy was hiding from the police car. And this broke the father's heart. If you look, you could search and find this video. And this is what we're talking about. People shouldn't have to be afraid. It's not what this country's about. We deserve better than that. While I have your attention, Mr. President, I want to go on and use this same analogy. Because joking or not, I'm going to change subjects a little bit, but I'm going to use the same analogy. You brought up the fact that you seem to think, joking or otherwise, that if there's less testing for the coronavirus, then there's going to be there'll be less cases. And you've talked about you have cut back funding for testing, which I think is going to be your downfall, to be honest here, Mr. Trump. But to use the same analogy with drunk driving, I just want to leave this one thought with you. It's like saying that if we got rid of all DWI checkpoints, sobriety checkpoints, if we got rid of them all, there'd be less drunk drivers. That's what you're saying. It makes no sense when you say that if there's less testing, there's going to be less coronavirus cases. It makes just about as much sense. Using the drunk driving analogy one last time, if we got rid of all sobriety checkpoints, well, then there'd be less drunk drivers on the road. It doesn't make sense, Mr. Trump. So, I hope you do see this. Like I said, this isn't a gimmick. It's just giving you the benefit of the doubt and trying to give you a little more perspective. All right. Y'all have a good Thursday.